Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller, and today I have a very dear friend, Jennie Snapp, is here in studio with me today. Jennie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Saturday to come over.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I feel so cool. I do.
Now, your journey to my house wasn't very long.
No, I literally had to leave my house with like 2 minutes to spare.
I
actually kind of panicked when I left. I'm like, do I know how to get there? And then I was like, of course I know how to get there. But anyway, I don't know. You're always thinking you have like 15 to 20 minutes to drive somewhere from where we live. And no, it was like a minute down the road.
So. When I came to your house to pick apples this past summer, I was like, oh, she said this time to be there. I was like, I don't have to leave that early. I'll just get there, and it's so short. It is such a short time.
That's great.
I was thinking to myself, I was trying to, get some cleaning done before you came because it's Saturday. I try to clean on Saturday. And I was like, what if she shows up early? I was like, she won't show up early because it's like a minute away, so
I almost did, and then I kind of just hung out at my house for a little bit. I'm like, I can stay here. I don't have to get in the car and rush. And I also didn't have to load up any kids, which that's a huge difference because that adds so much time too. So I just got in the car and took my time and just came over. Yeah, it was nice. I could have sat in the parking lot for a little bit, honestly. But
last night we celebrated your 30th birthday, and as we were driving there, you had a group text with all the friends who were coming, and someone said, we're running late, we have to drop off the kids, and then we'll drop off the dogs, and then we'll be there. And I was thinking to Garrett, I was like, oh my gosh, we're not in that era in our life yet, but one day we will.
Yeah.
And my dad lives only 2 miles down. I said, wouldn't it be so nice? Like on our way anywhere we have to essentially go by my dad's house if we go that way. We just drop them off so quick.
It's so nice.
So quick.
No, but that's if your dad can help. Because if your dad can't help for some specific reason, like he's out of town or has plans of his own, that's when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't take advantage of my parent that lives a mile down the road. It does kind of cause you to think that through. Mm-hmm. So my parents live in Columbia, and so anytime we went to drop off the kids or if we've worked that out with them, it's typically because we're in that area. So, but if we're gonna do something in like the Kansas City area,
oh my gosh,
we're literally we have to ask if they can come our way, or we try to meet them, or then we have to get a babysitter. But a babysitter with 3 kids is very expensive. So
and it's stressful to find an available babysitter who's able to come into your home with your children and watch them. So I have developed a method where we get babysitters from the boys' schools. Yeah.
So at the daycares especially, and because they're typically younger, they don't typically have a family, because Friday nights, that's when you want to be with your family. Yeah. So a lot of times we have found sitters who are the boys' teachers, so the boys love them, they trust them, they respect them, the school obviously trusts them, and they've done the work, they've done the background checks, they've done the certifications, what have you, and then we just ask the boys which teachers they like, and as a parent you can pick up on that. But that's how we've gotten our babysitters, and we love them, and it's worked out really well. But in our community, there's a very big college community, and so a lot of times they want to do fun stuff on a Friday night as well. So it is a balance.
Or they go home for the weekend, and again, that family base.
Yeah.
We'll see. Brody, my little brother, by the time we have children, he'll be,
prime babysitting age.
16, 17, 18.
I love that.
So if Dad can't do it, Brody should be
there
able
to. There you go.
I need some payback from being the older sister. And
my little sister, when she graduated college, she left. She's in Florida. So I'm like, hold on. You will be at least a few years of babysitting before you can leave. But
oh my gosh.
She's helped me out a lot. She actually came into town last March when Jordan, my husband, was deployed. I'm sorry, not really deployed, but he was stateside doing some training. But I had a 3-month-old, and August and Griff were, 4 and 5 at the time, and she came in from Florida for a week to help me, so it was really special.
That is really special because I didn't think about it before now, but you are kind of siloed. You are in this community, and you don't have that extended family or, you know, that you can rely on. And it's great to see how you've navigated it with, you know, teachers and friends and building a community around you. Did that come pretty easy, or did you have to work at it?
It kind of depends on what type of community you're talking about. When it comes to like those who can help us with the kids, that you have to work a little harder. So so like you said, we don't have a lot of family around here. So Jordan and I grew up somewhat in the area. I grew up in Lexington, which is about 35 minutes north of us, and then when I graduated high school, my parents moved to Columbia, so it's an hour and a half away. And then Jordan's family lives in Marshall, and they are also about an hour and a half, depending on how which road you take. Because they're pretty far deep into like the country. So we don't have them readily available. My mom though makes herself available all the time, which I absolutely love, and I just can't thank her enough for that. But as far as like those last minute, like I need someone now, I do have a great community for that. Mm-hmm. So we've made those connections with, so someone told me at one point, your friends, if you don't feel like you have friends now, your friends are going to become your kids' parents are gonna become your friends. Mm-hmm. Basically saying like, your kids are gonna start growing up and creating relationships of their own, and then those parents of those kids are who you're going to gravitate towards. And so that's what's really actually worked for us, because naturally, like the boys' classmates become their friends, and then, for example, like August is on a basketball team right now, his first year, and so I had to reach out to the players' parents whenever I could not take them to a practice, and Jordan couldn't either, and one of them just came and picked him up from the sitter, and so that was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But other than that, like I've mentioned, the teachers at the daycare has been, that's really been a great pool of candidates, if you will, and then also our Bible study group. They've been really great. And it's because we're in a Bible study, and we intentionally join a Bible study with couples, and then also some of those couples have kids, and so those kids have also become our kids' friends, and then we just naturally have a good relationship with them. But Jordan and I are both extroverted probably in those types of settings, and so it's easier for me to make the friends and to ask people for help. But I can't imagine, especially like a true active duty military spouse who's relocated here maybe from North Carolina, I can't imagine how hard that must be for them, because they don't know anyone at all. And maybe they're more of an introvert and they are not putting themselves in positions like Bible study or church or clubs or anything, any organization where they're meeting other adults and other, really even the teachers that can help out. So it does make me kind of think of what they do. But
it's hard to find adult friends, especially, when we're in the environments of growing up in elementary, middle school, high school. Even if you move around, you're still put in those situations where you're dealing with the same peers, class to class, and you develop some relationships with those individuals. Me personally, I didn't grow up in this area necessarily with peers or in school, because I grew up in Northeast Iowa. So coming here, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no one. And I felt like I really had to work on it. And the first meal we had together, I told you, I was like, oh, thank you so much. I'm looking for a friend. I just had to get, confident in myself and assured in my own personality. You have to get out there, you have to join those groups, and you have to try, because if you don't, then you're stuck at home. And I think as human beings, we're meant to connect, and we're meant to have that fellowship, and we're meant to be kind of like people say a tribe, or it takes a village to raise a child, like all of those things. Previously, people had, their families living down the block from them, and
or even in the same home.
Yes. And I feel like, especially nowadays, once you turn 18, you are an adult. Get out of the house. But previously, it was okay to stay a few years until you start your family, or even live down the road. And it's crazy how much that has changed. But, the disconnect, and then you have social media, and that's a whole other thing you see other people having a good time, and you're like, why am I not having a good time,
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think that sometimes it can be difficult to just find those resources and find those things. Like I don't have children, so I don't have any teachers to rely on.
Yeah.
But even, for your birthday party, I told Garrett, I was like, I'm a little bit nervous about going. I don't know anybody. I was like, I'm telling you right now that I don't know anybody. And Garrett has had the same 5 friends since he was in elementary school, and they still connect and they still hang out. I don't have that. And I was like, listen, I know you're comfortable in your friend group and you don't have to try that hard. I gotta try hard. Like, we gotta go do this. Because he is more of an introvert and isn't loud, noisy like I am, so sometimes that dynamic is a little difficult. But I definitely think that you and your husband put everybody at ease and have a good time.
Thanks.
Now, so last night you had friends, from different areas of your professional life, your personal life, your family life. Do you think that like bringing people from like different areas of your life together, do you think that's hard, difficult? Did you think they meshed together well?
Planning my birthday was actually really hard for me.
I bet.
It was very interesting for me because, and I know that this is not the question you asked, but I have also felt like I don't have a solid like friend group. Like I have fantastic friends. I don't have a lot of the friends that I had as a child. And I moved a lot as a kid, which has a big part to play in that. And I also, it's been an interesting time to kind of navigate with, through help of like professional coaches and counselors and mentors.
Yes.
But I have worked so hard within my career that I did not take those opportunities to create friends. And now as an adult, like I'm paying the price for that. And so when Jordan asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday, I was like, I want to just go out to dinner with people that I just enjoy being around. I was like, I can be selfish and I can completely pick who's at that table because I don't want anyone there that like sucks the joy or sucks the energy or who's going to make anyone uncomfortable. And so I was sitting there kind of thinking, and I thought, gosh, I could invite this person. Well, okay, but they're not really my friend. I just worked with them for a long time and they probably, and I haven't talked to them in years. Or, my first thought actually went to my siblings, and they're both in opposite states. Like one's in California and one's in Florida, and they're not coming back for my birthday. So my first thought was like, well, I want my mom and I want my siblings. Well, my mom's gonna watch my kids and my siblings aren't here, so they can't come. So then I was like, okay, who's next? And then I started going through my friends and I made a list of who I wanted there. And then I kind of got this feeling of like, well, that's not enough. Like, why don't I have more people I can invite? Like, and I was really down in the dumps and I was emotional, and I told Jordan, like, this makes me so sad that like I can list like 5 female friends that like I want at that table and their spouses, but what beyond that? And I had invited others who just couldn't make it, but I had told myself this story that I had to have more people there, and that at the end of the day you don't have to at all, but I just thought like, really, Jenny, you don't have more friends than this? And it made me so sad because I just thought like, well, gosh, you've worked so hard in your career and I'm so proud of myself and everything that I've done, but what that naturally did though is when you're the leader in an organization and you have people that report to you or that you supervise, you can't always be their friend. And I've learned those hard lessons in a very, very hard way. And so I had to be very careful because those were some of the first people I thought of too, like my team that I spend every day with. But
who you love so much.
Exactly, and they are like my family. I've handpicked every single one of them, but like it's probably not appropriate for me to go and have some drinks with with people who also report to me at the end of the day. And so that was kind of an interesting area to navigate. And then I thought like, okay, so let's go back to high school. Let's think about your friends there. Well, I have 2 really great friends from high school, but one of them couldn't make it. And I was like, okay, well then the other one's probably not going to be able to make it either. Or they're going to be by themselves and they're going to be lonely, and they rely on me a lot. And in those times to help like introduce and carry the conversation. And my first thought went to like, well, what if I can't? Like, are they not going to enjoy themselves? And then one of my best friends actually, who I have had forever since about 6th grade, she said, well, why don't I plan something with like your friends from high school? So it'll just be like 3 or 4 of us. And so that really worked well. And then I thought through college, and I reached out to a friend from college, and she ultimately couldn't come, but I truly have like 1 or 2 solid friends from college. But once again, I didn't join a sorority. I didn't have those opportunities to make friendships and relationships. And then I thought, okay, post-college, and so that's where other friends, came from. But going back to your question as far as how I felt that everyone would get along, I thought it was really funny, but on the drive up there, it dawned on me that if our group was last, so there was, me and then Jordan, and then we had another couple that drove us there. So there was 4 of us, but there was 12 people total, and I thought 8 people could be sitting in that waiting room right now, and none of them would know that we're all sitting together, because none of them know each other.
And that's what I wanted to avoid. I was
Yeah.
not going to be that girl who like sat at the bar and was like, did not like look at anybody
Oh my
because
gosh.
like they might not be a part of your group. I was like, nope,
this is how
stay in the car.
This is how much I care about how people feel. I literally was like, should I start sending people photos of everyone to be like, hey, here's who you're gonna look for, because you had texted me and said that you were there, and I knew that my cousin was there, and I was like, seriously, like, should I start sending photos? Like, okay, here are Logan and Garrett, here's Brittany and Kyle, like, just so that if you guys were happen to be at the bar, you would be like, oh, hi, like, we have a mutual thing in common, we're both here for Jennie. So, and then when I walked in, so the 4 of us got there, and we walked in with Sylvia and Austin, and then my cousin and her husband were already there, and then you guys were coming in.
Yep, we were walking up.
Yeah, so it all worked, but I didn't necessarily give too much thought into it, but I do really care about people's feelings, and that's also the nature of my job. Like, I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, and so I did give some thought into that, which was, okay, so I just wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be anyone there that would make people uncomfortable, and because like I said, this was my one time to be selfish,
Be fun,
and
have a fun
yeah,
time.
and I was like, okay, I don't want anyone there that has a history of making people uncomfortable, and I don't have a lot of drama in my life, but I still was thinking, okay, how will this person, what if they sit next to that person, like, will they get along? So I did give a little bit of thought into it, but at the end of the day, like, I just knew that everyone there truly just provides joy into my life, and from all different aspects. My cousin was there. I've obviously known her since birth. Bailey was there. I do work with Bailey, but we were friends before that.
Previously, yeah.
And then, and by the way, August thinks he's marrying Henley, her little girl, one of her little girls. She has, 3 girls. We've got 3 boys, so we always joke that odds are, we'll be in-laws someday. And then Sylvia has just been such a good friend of mine, and we've done volunteer work together. And then I introduced Jordan to her husband through Bible study, and so then they started getting along really well. And of course, you and Garrett were there, and I just felt like it was such a good group of people that, it would just be fun. It would be fun for everyone.
It was so fun.
I have heard so many great things. People, even this morning, so Tex and Emily were there as well. And
Yes.
So Tex and Jordan were good friends in college, and they've been friends forever. And so naturally, Emily and I are good friends as well. And they stayed with us last night, and they woke up talking about everyone and asking me, they're like, is this person like that all the time? Because they were so much fun. Or they were like, man, this person has such a cool job. Like, they just loved that. And I love that. I love helping people make connections and create relationships, and so I loved that they had fun, and I had text messages come in last night of people saying thank you so much for the invite, that was so much fun, and that's just what I wanted it to be. I didn't want there to be a lot of pressure or the need to do anything too crazy or spend too much money, although it was a nice restaurant.
It was great.
I didn't want anyone to think that they couldn't just show up authentically as themselves, and so I think we accomplished it.
I think you did. It was a great time just to be with people. And back to your point about, you're counting up your friends. You're like, okay, I should have a bigger list. And I think sometimes a more intimate list is fine because there's a reason that people kind of fall out of our life, right? Like, they're not on the same mindset, or they don't have the same intentions with their life. They're not, actively pursuing the similar things, even though all of us had different careers essentially, or different things, or a different background, we still have that initiative that we all want to be the best in our careers as spouses, as mothers, as whatever title that they want. We're still actively pursuing showing up and being kind and joyful and also just having good conversation through good food. And I think that's exactly what it was. But I feel the same sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, like from high school, I have 2 best friends. From college, I have a few best friends. But it's more like, okay, that was an era in your life. They were there for support in different things, problems, issues, whatever we were going through in that moment. And then transitioning to adult life can be rocky. Or even, motherhood to, okay, it was just me and my husband. We could leave, we could do whatever we wanted. We didn't have to worry about anybody but ourselves. Or I could, go out with my girlfriends by myself. I didn't have to worry about, bedtime or anything like that. And so I can see how, it's not going to get better for me. It's going to get worse. People are going to slowly just fall out and moving around and doing all those things. Now, you touched on being a professional in your workspace, and sometimes the line between a coworker is just a coworker. Like you enjoy them so much. I always ask myself, like, sometimes for individuals, I'm like, would we be friends, like, if we weren't in work? If we had met at the coffee shop or if we had met somewhere, like, would we have these same interactions? Or are we just, like, focused on, oh my gosh, like, this customer is so, irritating, or this situation is rough, or, and are we bonding on just that, or are we bonding on something more? Like, is it actually, like, a connection? But I see your point, especially because, like, one of my coworkers, Madison, I love her to death. We would be friends outside of work. But other people that I enjoy so much, we might not, there's a line to be drawn. Like, we're not going to hang out after work. But it's hard, especially when, some of the, individuals who work under you might want to hang out. You might say, hey, let's go do something. Making excuses for that. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm busy.
I've been there. Well, going back though to what you were saying about how it's definitely okay to have this like more intimate group of friends, I have always felt that way. I think in this particular instance, the reason I felt so much pressure was, so thinking back to like birthdays that you would typically celebrate with friends, like that would make, those big monumental birthdays. So that's like what, your 16th and your 21st, right? So my 21st birthday, I had actually canceled because I found out the day prior that Jordan would be home in 4 days from deployment from Afghanistan. And of course, all I could think about was my fiance coming home. So I really didn't do too much for my 21st. A few friends like made me go out. They're like, no, listen, like we get it, but come on. So a few of us had dinner together, but those again were my college friends that I really have not talked with since, besides one of them. But then the next thing really when you have to sit down and list out friends, that's going to be like your wedding or your bridal shower, if that's the season of life you're in, which for me, that's when I was 21. And
me too.
So and I'm now 30, so that was 9 years ago. And so that friend group does not look the same. And I really didn't do a lot for my bachelorette. And so I felt this weird pressure for my 30th to do something, because I thought, okay, this is like the last time that it would make sense to like do like a fun party. Now, in all reality, that's not true.
No.
Like I could celebrate any party. I totally could. But I just felt this pressure. I was like, okay, I was kind of feeling down in the dumps. So like, you didn't do anything for your, for your 21st. You hardly did anything for your bachelorette. Like, let's go, like, let's just have fun. So anyway, I just wanted to go back to that, because I definitely don't think you have to have a large group, but in that moment, I was really thinking like, okay, here's where I had fear. And my fear was none of my friends are going to want to come. Or we're not as close as I thought we were. So then do I have other people I can talk to? And so that's, I think, where my rationale was with wanting to develop a bigger list. But going...
it's ego.
It's
just ego.
It is. And it's all in it's me. It's
and
not.
Everybody has these things. Everybody thinks the same things of, oh gosh, like,
do they really
I want to be relevant. It's
Yeah.
all ego.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So then going back to, what you were talking about as far as the boundaries and the lines, I was a very young leader at an early age, and I had to learn hard lessons that I, at the time, maybe was not necessarily mature enough to learn, and I didn't understand them until later in life. But I've had lessons where I went out to the bars with my coworkers and my employees, down to Pine Street here in Warrensburg, and had fun. We were all the same age, but I happened to be in a management role, and everyone technically reported up through me. And so we all went to the bars one weekend, and then the following Monday, I had to write up one of my employees for a big mistake she made. And I remember saying to her, like, listen, I know this is awkward, and I'm sorry, but we have to talk about this. And when I told her I had to write her up, she laughed at me, and she goes, okay. And I learned right then and there that I can't be someone's friend outside of work and also gain their respect here at work. Yeah. And that was a really hard lesson to learn, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to be people's friends, and I want my team to see me as a friend. But if I also want their respect in those hard situations, if they are not able to give me respect in those situations, then I just that relationship can't happen. So that is a really hard line, because I genuinely I love my team. I respect them all. I think so highly of them, and I would do anything for them. But to think that I can't really be like their best friend outside of work is hard, because we are so close when we're at work. But I learned that lesson, and it's another lesson I learned was I remember when one of my friends had been let go at the organization I work for, and I tried to check in with her, and I tried to just say, like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. And she never responded, and to this day she's never talked with me. And that was so hard for me, because I don't have a lot of friends outside of work, and then I thought of her as a friend. And one of my coworkers said to me, not everyone's your friend, not everyone likes you. And that was so hard to hear, but at the same time I needed to hear it, because it hit me that, yeah, just because we were so close here at work and we had breakfast and lunch together every single day does not mean that she has to like me or has to text me back. Yeah. And that was a really hard lesson. So I've tried to make sure that I'm developing friendships outside of work, and they can be professional relationships. Like you and I met through the chamber, which is a professional network, but we don't work with the same organization, and you and I don't report to each other. So I can develop those friendships and treat them as a true friendship, whereas the others, I really have to just be careful.
And be professional.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is hard. It's so hard, but when you have to have those crucial conversations, it's easier to be able to disconnect yourself and say, okay, listen, like after this meeting's over, like we can talk about whatever, but right now we have to talk about your performance, your behavior, this task, whatever it is. And you have to be able to have that conversation without being laughed at and saying, oh, okay, because that was really hard for me, but it was a lesson.
And I've also had to learn some of the same things, being as young as I am and the positions that I've been in. I have also, had to have individuals who might have been older than me that I was now, having to talk to about their performance, and it's tough.
It's very intimidating.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is my job. This is my career. I don't, in those situations, I don't want them to take advantage of me because we might be friendly. I'm a pretty likable person. I know you're a likable person. It's easy to get along with people. And so you want to connect on those other levels, but it's tough. Yeah. It is so tough. Have you had, you have accomplished so much in the last 30 years. I mean, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine, where you're going to be in the next 30. Have you felt that because of your age or accomplishing things, at younger ages, do you think that has, of course it comes with its positives, but what has been some of the things that you've had to overcome and work through to, settle into your roles?
Before I can answer your question, I have to say, I think it's extremely important, no matter what phase of life you're in, no matter if you're in a professional career or you are, or you're still trying to find your way within your career. I think getting into counseling, some type of mental health professional, is so important. And one of the things that has truly helped me over the last year has been meeting with a professional coach and also a mentor. So I think it's really easy, especially when you have advancement at a young age, to kind of get what people would call like a big head and say like, I can do this, I've got it. But in all reality, for me, like the more I advanced, the harder it got. And so I knew that I needed to reach out to someone who could help guide me through mental health, but then I needed someone different to help guide me through my professional career. So all that to be said, I mean, I've had a lot of help with this, navigating this conversation over the last year. So I do think that advancing in my career so quickly at a young age obviously is very exciting, but it does come with its downfalls. For example, I have always heard from people, slow down. There's no reason you need to keep going. Like, why do you feel like you deserve that promotion? You're not even 30 yet. Or, gosh, you just got a promotion. Can't you just sit in that and just be thankful? And on one hand, of course, I am so thankful. But dang it, like, what's so wrong with just wanting more or wanting to just prepare myself or set goals? And also, why do we have such a stigma around age? Like, that's been so frustrating for me, which is, I think, why it was so important for me to celebrate my 30th birthday, because I have set so many goals around the age 30. And it's because I've heard from so many people, like, you're not even 30 yet, it's gonna be okay. Or, gosh, like, just wait, just give us some time, like, be okay with where you're at, because you'll be 30 and then you can start working on stuff. And I've just always thought that was the most ridiculous thing you could say to someone. But anyway, so a few things that are going to just naturally happen is I'm so goal oriented, and whether I'm working on a true promotion or just a milestone that I want to reach, I like to have a goal. And those goals I typically outline with myself, and I also outline with my professional coach or my my director, really depending on who would be the best person to speak with. And because I want accountability, I want accountability from them to make sure that I am on track, but I also want help from a professional coach just to make sure that I'm navigating that in a healthy manner. And so those goals, though, because I've met this massive goal of mine, by the time I turn 30, I think one of the fears I have is that I'm not going to be happy until I hit another goal, or I've hit kind of, that I'm at a plateau. And whenever I was, this would have been 2021, I hit some pretty major milestones. I graduated with my master's after going back to school with 2 little kids and an active duty husband who was deployed. I also got pregnant after a year of trying through infertility. And then out of the blue, I was chosen for Warrensburg's Young Professional of the Year. And then I was also selected for Top 20 Under 40. And then I also was promoted also. So then I also became a manager over the department that I've been a part of for so long. And it was a very intense professional year for me, an extremely successful year. But what I had to address with a counselor was knowing that the next year was going to look completely different. And knowing that the next year I was not going to win awards, and I'd already graduated with my master's, and so there wasn't going to be this big celebration. And that I wouldn't have a promotion within the next year. At least I didn't think so. And so I really had to navigate those thoughts and feelings, because just knowing it's kind of like this high. You're on this high of this great time, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like if you compare yourself, it's like, well, I didn't do anything this year. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to have that mindset. I wanted to be able to celebrate the milestones I had hit and just be happy with that, where they were, and not feel like I had to top anything. So last year 2022 was very much a year of growth for me, as far as personal growth, not professional, truly just personal. And I really had to audit my life and think of what's important to me, both as a professional, as a mom, as a wife, as a Christian. What's the most important to me, and how can I really hone in on that? And then everything else will just fall into place. And whether it's a few years from now, when I reach the next promotion, or receive some type of award, whatever, I needed to be okay with where I was. And so I fortunately work for an organization that allows counseling services for free up to a certain amount, and so that helped me navigate the mental health aspect of it. I also was given the opportunity to get into some professional coaching through the organization as well, and so that was very helpful, and I don't think that I would be mentally where I'm at today without that. So to answer all those questions, it is hard when you advance at a younger age, because then I feel like you plateau. You hit a point where in your head at least, you're like, okay, is this where I'm at? Like, is there something else I need to be working towards? Can I just be okay, you know, in the position that I'm in? And then also, I think another true issue that came up, and I've addressed it already, but was just the fact of my age. And I hate that our society has put such a stigma around your age and how that correlates with your success. And I've always been told that I act older than I am.
I too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've always just been told that, and I mean, I'm the middle child, but I've always been told that people thought I was the oldest, and that, I think, comes with a lot of responsibility, but also I have so many women and men, but mainly women in my life who have accomplished things by 30, and I always just put this label, this invisible label over my 30th year of things I wanted to accomplish by then, but also thinking my 30s are going to be freaking amazing. Like, I have had so many women in my life, like I said, who just have just these fantastic lives. And so I've never felt like 30 was a bad thing. I've been eager to get to 30. In fact, last year I remember telling someone I was 30 and like looking at my husband and being like, why did I just say that? Like, I'm not 30, but I think it was just the first thing that came out of my mouth. And I think that people tell you stories, or there's stories you have in your own head as far as like you have to be a certain age before you can accomplish things. And so I do think at a young age, when you're advancing, you do have to sit back and remember, like, that's their life, that's not mine. My life is, I'm in control of it and on the trajectory, you know, that I want to be. And so there's also the fact of, you've mentioned it, but a lot of times you have employees that are older than you.
Yeah.
And in fact, every single one of my employees is older than me. And I used to do anything to avoid talking about my age. No one needed to know how old I was. This happens a lot where people will bring up a movie or a TV show or a song that was way before my generation. And the second they realize that I don't know what they're talking about, they say, how old are you? And I used to do whatever I could to avoid that question. And so if someone was making a joke about a movie, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, I'm like, why am I lying? Why am I lying just to protect the fact that they won't have to ask me how old I am? And so, in fact, my professional coach, the reason I selected him, because I had the opportunity to choose between him and another, is because he openly told us to a big group of people how old he was, and he had no shame. So I told him later when he asked, why did you select me? I said, because you told us your age and you didn't care what people had to say. And I have always felt like that's like the secret that I have to just, you know, keep under lock and key. So it's allowed me to be okay with saying my age. But now that I'm 30, I do have this weird confidence where I tell people my age.
Yeah.
Like previously I'd just be like, oh yeah, it's my birthday, thanks. Now I'm like, it's my 30th. And I don't know what caused that. I don't know why that changed, but I truly think it's just because I've been waiting for this moment, because thinking that that's what I had to do, and I now know that it doesn't matter. Age just doesn't matter. So
I have put a lot of pressure on myself for my 25th birthday in May. You know, I want to have certain things accomplished by that time, and I've kind of, you know, put this pressure on me for the last 5 years. But I know that I'm not dying after 25.
Yeah.
You know, like there's still so much to accomplish and do, and of course I love goals and I like achieving them because of that, you know, endorphins through your body. You're like, yes, I got it, that satisfaction. But I've done the same thing where I'm like, I am embarrassed almost to say, you know, I'm 23, I'm 24, I'm 25, you know, in those positions, or, you know, people ask me because I deal with a lot of, you know, individuals who are, you know, later in life, you know, they're 40, 50, 60 years of age, and they're like, how old are you? You know, why do you think you can do this for me? Why do you think that you have the credentials to do this for me?
yeah.
Where's your boss? Like, where's the older person? Like, I don't believe that you can do it. And I'm like, no, like, I promise, like, I can do this. I've done it all. I've, you know, put myself through the education. I've put myself in situations. I've applied it. You know, here are my success stories. This is what I've done. But it's still hard, you know? People always want to know, like, how old are you?
Well, I will say, so when I first met you, I remember asking you how old you were because you appeared older, and I think we were talking about our careers, and you asked me, and I heard you do this last night, but you said, how old do you think I am?
No.
And I love that. I love that. But I will say, okay, if you were to go back on like my Facebook or Instagram, you would see that on my birthday post, because I always like to make a poster on my birthday, really thanking people for reaching out and wishing me happy birthday. Yeah. But also it's, typically a picture of me with my boys or, a family photo. And I never put, my enter from my age. And last year I did for some reason, and I don't remember why, and I do remember though going back and editing it. But one of my professional, what am I trying to say? He's a donor and a volunteer through the foundation that I oversee, but it's a really professional connection. He reached out to me and he said, "You're 29?" And I said, "I am," and my heart dropped because I thought he's not going to trust me anymore. He goes, "I'm really impressed with you." And I was like, okay, that's what I needed to hear because that's not what I was used to hearing. Yeah. But I recently talked with, I gave a presentation through the chamber and talked a lot about, the presentation was leaning into leadership, and truly I decided to go the route of the 3 rules that I live by as a leader. And one of them is called, I titled it, Getting the Monkey Out of Your Head. Yep. And the monkey is in terms of monkey mind. And monkey mind is a term that's used in the professional development realm. And basically, and not to go into the scientific side of it, but monkey mind is essentially where your fight, flight, freeze, or appease, because those are the 2 new ones we've added. That's really where those mechanisms live. And when you are getting ready, the best example I can give is say that you have a meeting with your boss, and he or she just tears you apart. And so the next time you get ready to enter a meeting with your boss, of course you're going to freeze, or one of the 4. I mean, you're going to avoid that meeting at all costs, or you're going to not say anything in the meeting, or you're going to just be like, yep, okay, sure, I can do that, and that's the appease side of it. And you can't, or obviously fight and create more tension. And so it's being able to, so that's called monkey mind. So whenever you can get out of that monkey mind, and whenever you can say, you know what, that's not the story that I have to tell myself. That's not what's going to happen today. You can get out of the monkey mind, and you can then start to attack the situation in the way that you should, as the professional you are, as a woman you are, as a person you are. And an attack may not be the best word, but really just approach the situation. Yes. And so one of the things that I've learned so much through that is the stories you tell yourself are not the stories you have to live, or the stories that someone else has told you. So someone else telling me to just sit back and relax and, I'm not even 30 yet, that's their issue. That's not mine. And the story I've heard of, well, when I was 30, I was doing, X, Y, and Z. You should be thankful to be where you're at. Those are their stories. I don't have to live by that. Mm-hmm. And so I have truly tried to just adopt that with every aspect of my life moving forward. And I've even done it like with my husband or with others to say like, okay, but who told you that you weren't qualified? Or who told you that you had to do X, Y, and Z before you could take this next step? And odds are, it's a story you made up in your head, or it's a story someone else told you. There's no truth behind it. And so that's been really helpful for me to be able to say, okay, my story is that I have worked my butt off since I was 14. I mean, I have worked so hard to get to where I am today. Like, that's my truth. My truth is that I have, hit these milestones. I have this education. I have this experience. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter that, multiple generations ago, so-and-so couldn't have achieved a director's position until they were in their 40s or 50s. And so, anyway, that's been one of the biggest things that I've adopted really is just getting rid of that monkey mind, recognizing when it's there, and recognizing that you don't have to live by other people's stories that they've said.
Pushed upon you. Yep. And if you think about the people who have created these stories or maybe said that, snide comment or something that has stuck with you, they forgot about it. Yep. They literally are not thinking about you. Yep. They're not thinking about, oh, you're only 25, you're only 29, whatever. You're not old enough to do this. They already forgot about it. They forgot your name, your face, your person. But like we hold on to that and we're like, oh my gosh, and we have this self-doubt. And the monkey in your
Mhm.
mind. Exactly. And it can be hard to kick that monkey out, but it sounds like you've done a lot of personal growth and just counseling and having a sort of a professional coach as well, just to get you through it. And I think that sometimes it's hard to talk to your boss sometimes, and it's hard to talk to, you can't really unload on the people that report for you, and you don't really want to offload onto your husband or your children, you know, like because that sometimes you just need those boundaries, and for the safety of them, like here I'm just offloading to Garrett, like, and now he's in a bad mood too. Having someone who's a third party almost, who can just, they're not a part of the situation, they're just looking at it and helping you navigate through it, can be so impactful.
And you don't, I recognize, and I don't know your whole demographic of your listeners, but I do recognize that not everyone has the financial ability for a counselor or a professional coach, which I was so fortunate that both of those services have been free to me through the organization I work for. But even having a mentor, someone within your profession that you respect and that you trust, and in my opinion, it needs to be completely separated from the organization you work at, that's free. I mean, I met a mentor at a seminar I attended in National Harbor, and she just, every time I met with her, she was just kind and she was genuine, and she was approachable. And I emailed her a few months ago and said, would you be my mentor? And she loved that. She was like, of course I will. And so we just set up Zoom calls, and I've only had one with her so far. I just had our first one earlier this week, but that's free. I mean, truly, it's free. And so now, not that she needs to be handling your mental health, crisis that you may be going through, or really the conversations. I mean, depending on what avenue and of your life that they're helping with, it probably needs to stay within that wheelhouse. But it still was so nice to just have this person who has experienced all of what I've dealt with. She has navigated the same profession, and she knows what I'm talking about, and she knows my frustrations and my fears and my barriers. She knows what I'm up against, and she was just great to have as a mentor. And she is the one actually who gave me the confidence to go talk to the CEO of the company I work for. I'm in a really unique opportunity. I'm in a unique, time right now where I have my direct report, the executive that I report to. She's on maternity leave, and so the next up from her is the CEO. And my mentor had said, do you know how great it is for you that you have a female CEO who recognizes when you need to talk, recognizes when you're dealing with some of that monkey mind, and not that a man wouldn't. But just the story I told her about a certain situation, it happened to be the fact that it was another female who approached me and said, let's talk. I can see you're kind of struggling a little bit. So anyway, so she said, take advantage of that, take advantage of those conversations. And so I, this week I, asked the CEO if we could talk, and just having her undivided attention was so important to me. And once again, I know that not everyone has that opportunity within their organization, depending on how their structure is, but just having someone like her who could help me and just guide me through certain aspects of my week that I was getting ready to deal with or that I have coming up. And that was just so cool. It was just so important that other women are willing to invest in me and take time out of their extremely busy schedules and talk was just so important. So even if it's not, like I said, even if you can't afford a counselor or you can't afford a professional coach, and your organization doesn't offer it, which I would always suggest you check, and maybe even negotiate. Sometimes organizations will pay for a professional coach. There's other people you can talk to that you don't have to pay to speak with, and they can help too.
Absolutely. Now you work pretty hard. You also play hard too. Yeah. You take care of yourself and you pamper yourself in ways. You have a beautiful home outdoors. You can go outside, do whatever you want. But you've really tried to cultivate a sort of an oasis and a place that you can relax. So how has that contributed to your success and also your overall happiness? What tools do you use?
Well, okay, so as you were saying that, I was thinking, I grew up with two parents who worked very, very hard, and not only did they work hard, but they also had very strenuous hobbies, which I'm like, why is that a hobby? Come on, you guys are spending way too much time and money and resources on this. But anyway, they were so involved with their careers that sometimes I felt like I had a lack of relationship with them. And so I decided at a very early age that I wanted to enter their workforce early so that I could maybe retire early, or so that I even talked about wanting kids early so that I would be involved in their lives. Because I always thought my parents' age is what connected them, or what was the barrier between like them spending time with me at school, or coming to the class parties, or coming to the field trips, or sporting events. And so I actually, I did not realize until I had been in my career for a while that had absolutely nothing to do with my age and everything to do with the career. So for example, I was working in retail. I graduated with a fashion merchandising degree. I was working in retail, working 60 to 70 hours a week. I mean, that boutique was my baby. Well, but then I had a baby. And I took a 2-week-long maternity leave after a cesarean, which is not healthy.
2 weeks?
Yeah, not healthy at all.
Oh my gosh.
But I was in a weird situation, truly, but I also just wanted to get back to work. And I remember sitting in the parking lot, getting to the daycare and just relaxing for a second. And I looked in the back seat in August, my oldest, who's 6 now, but he was just a few weeks old at the time. I looked back and realized I hadn't seen him awake in 72 hours. There had been a big sale that weekend at the store, and my husband was at drill, and my parents kept him, and I only saw him awake in the middle of the night when I woke him up to nurse him. And that was not okay. It hit me, and I just remember the emotions and the moments and everything where I thought, it has nothing to do with my age and everything to do with my job. So that's when I decided, okay, I have to completely reevaluate what I'm doing. I mean, I built my career in fashion, and I walked away. I said, I'm done. I was truly supposed to be purchasing the store from the man that I was working for. I mean, I had my whole life built out, and I just said, I can't do this and jeopardize the life that I want to live and that I want for my children.
Yeah.
So fast forward to a few years later, and I found my position at the hospital, and I think, like many people during the pandemic, we all saw a change of priority. And Jordan had been deployed, and we loved the house that we lived at the time. But when he came back from deployment, it was April of 2020, so right in the thick of the pandemic. We were very isolated out in a rural part of our community, and we started recognizing that not a lot of people wanted to drive our way. And you're already so isolated during the pandemic that you had to rely on your community to support you. And I told Jordan, I said, why are we living so far away from the town that we love and our church and school and work, and we're spending so much time in the car when we could be together. Yeah. And we decided to move and move closer to our jobs and move closer to the community that we love. And part of doing that, when we decided to look at houses, was we recognize that the busy lifestyles we've created for ourselves doesn't really allow us to travel a lot and take vacations. Mm-hmm. And while we're getting better at taking vacations, at the time, neither of us were like, we even cared about vacations. We were like, it's fine. Someone else can go waste money and go sit on the beach. We don't care about that. Now we would love to, do that together.
Go on the beach. Yeah, especially now.
But one of the things I said was, I want our house to be a retreat. I want to be able to be home and feel home and not feel like I have to leave my house in order to relax. Now, as a mom, especially with kids that just need you constantly, you're always going to feel the need to leave or just separate yourself for just 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, whatever. But I didn't want to wake up and feel like I needed to go somewhere just to get away. And I wanted to be able to walk out on my porch. So we happened to find our home, and it does feel very much like an oasis with the water that we have so close. But, I've also made a point to recognize what's very stressful in my life. And something that stresses me out a lot is the need to keep my home clean. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a mom who kept a very, very clean home, and I wanted to do the same. Well, I can't possibly live the life that I want to live as a business professional and as the mom I want to be and the wife and the volunteer, and then also have a clean home, because that doesn't leave any time for me to just relax and just sit. Mm-hmm. So I've reprioritized my budget, and I have a house cleaner who comes every 2 weeks. And I just think that was such a great recognition on my part to say, okay, this stresses me out. I can have someone do this. And she does just minor things. She doesn't like clean top to bottom. She doesn't do my laundry or anything like that, but she doesn't make my bed. But she cleans my floors and my bathrooms and my kitchen counters and the appliances, and that's been something I've established that's really helped. And then I also do make a point to take a mental health day if I need it, just and recognize when I need one. And part of that is making sure that everything's good to go at work, because the worst thing you can do for yourself on a mental health day is come back to work and it's 2 times as bad. So taking those mental health days, and then I have started doing just some small stuff like, getting facials and getting my nails done, which is funny that
yours are so cute.
Thank you. Well, and I don't want it to become a burden, but I want it to be, it's for me right now, it's a time that I'm sitting and I'm relaxing. And it's been so good for me. It's also been, the facials have been great for my skin. I've completely neglected my skin for the past few years, which teenage Jennie would be so mad because, I was like religious with those proactive regimens.
Yes.
But I just made a point to carve out time for myself, recognizing that if my cup's not full, I can't pour into anyone else's cup. So I just want to be the best wife and mother and employee and leader that I can be, and I can't do that if I'm not taking care of myself. So just making a point to make time for yourself and do the things you love, and whatever that looks like. But right now what it looks like for me is getting a facial once a month and getting my nails done every few weeks, and then my house cleaner Brittany, who I adore, who takes care of all the messiness around my house.
Yes,
so
I love that. I definitely relate, the facial, I love my facial. It's an hour of quiet. I'm closing my eyes. I'm not listening to anything. Maybe some nice music, like light music, but we have so much noise around us all the time, so many stressors in our life, and if we aren't just taking that time to relax, we're gonna burn ourselves out.
Of course. I remember when I took my mental health day, the very first day I ever took that I classified as a mental health day, I was struggling, and I'm so fortunate that I work for people who recognize the importance of those days. And I remember voice texting my boss with tears streaming down my face and saying, I'm not okay. I'm not okay and I need help, and I'm gonna take tomorrow off. I've made sure that everything is covered. You won't even know I'm gone. Everything's good. And she goes, okay. She goes, have a great day. She goes, please let me know if you need anything. And she goes, I'm so proud of you for recognizing this. And so I just thought to myself, like, what story have I told myself that says that it's not okay to do this, or that I'm weak for doing this, or that I'm any less of a hard worker for doing that? And so it was so important to me to have that day to myself to recharge. And, as a mom, and you, like I've mentioned, you have the kid aspect where, like, you come home and your kids need you constantly. I don't know how stay-at-home moms do it. I don't know how moms do it who work from the house. Like, your kids just need you, and they have a hand on you. They want you 24/7. And I love my boys, but that's a lot. It can be overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're not, taking care of yourself. And then I go to work, and people need me all day long, and I need people, and it's constant. And then, even at the grocery store, like, you gotta hurry and get out of there and get to the checkout line. And there's so many things where people just need you every moment of the day. And I just had to be able to say, I love myself enough to recognize that I need a day where no one needs me. I truly, like, I told my team, like, I need this day, like, contact me if it's an emergency, but,
please don't.
But please don't. And I told my husband what I was doing. I obviously didn't have to, like, tell the kids daycares or schools, but it was just, no one needed me. No one was counting on me. I didn't make a plan. And, I had an idea of what I wanted to do that day, but I didn't make a plan because I didn't want to have to stick to a timeline. And it was so good. And I thought, why don't I do this more often? So I encourage my team to try to do stuff like that. I encourage my friends to try to do stuff like that.